Leah, welcome back to the Crave Podcast. It's been a minute since I've had you on the show, and I'm so excited to have you here and to reconnect and catch up. Welcome back.
Thank you, Kat. I'm grateful to be here. I love your energy, and it's great to connect with you again.
Same here. And so, for our listeners, Leah is an incredible artist. She's an art therapist. She also has a beautiful online space and community where people can heal through creativity. In your own words, could you tell us a little bit about what you do and what you're passionate about?
Oh, yeah. So I'm an artist and art therapist, and I've been practicing for over 22 years. Can't believe it. Time goes by fast. And, my relationship with my art, I've always been an artist, but there's been times where I kind of stopped and I'm not as happy.
Mm.
So, part of the process for me is to be accountable. So, I created a membership called the Creative Soul Society. I started it back in 2020. So it's been 6 years, celebrating our 6 year birthday in August. And it's really about, showing up on a weekly basis and just creating for fun, for experimenting, but also connecting with your emotions and being able to like let go of any kind of judgment. It's not about this outcome, but it's more about the process and self discovery. So that's what, I've been really focused and giving a lot of love and attention and supporting the community. So that's been like my main focus, but I do offer individual art therapy to those individuals who need more support because in a group, it's you don't get that individual support, but I do offer that as well for those that are, working through things.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And I think right now, I mentioned before we started recording, there's so much research coming out about the health benefits of art. I mean, our most popular episode from this year is with Daisy Fancourt, who wrote the book Art Cure. And it's this whole like World Health Report on the physical benefits of art, even just looking at art, not even making it, but I'm sure making it has a whole other level of layer. What kind of artists or people, I should say, because you're not limited to just the art community, you're open to anyone who wants to be creative. What kind of like, what draws people into your space? Like, can you give us an example of what kind of person can benefit from this experience?
Yeah, anyone that has an open heart and open mind to experimenting with materials. I mean, in the community, we have people who have, been practicing art all their life and they're very established artists. And then we have people who are just starting out, meaning that, they've never tried acrylics or watercolor and they're wanting to play. So it's pretty much open as long as you are open to playing along and it's really about that self-discovery. So, and I have to remind people, it's like it's not about the product that you're creating. It's really just carving out that time to create once a week. How that's how you nurture that relationship with creativity, and so much can happen. The benefits are like exponential.
I love that so much. Absolutely. And for you, how did you, and I know we chatted a little bit about this when you were on last time, but it's been a while. So I'm just going to ask this question now. When you first started, I'm sure that you were creative your whole life, but how did you become interested in this field and to create spaces for people to also enjoy the creative process?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've, I remember I have my little sculpture over here. When I was a little kid, I still have that with me. When I
That's
was like in
amazing.
kindergarten, I made a sculpture, but it wasn't until like I was in high school where I really needed my art. And my mom, a single mom, doing the best that she can. She was a flight attendant, so we ended up moving around a lot around the states, and that was tough. I mean, being in high school and leaving my hometown, that's probably why I'm doing an art series about my hometown, just because it meant so much to me. But it was really hard leaving and moving around and, making new friends. And my art was like my safe space. I was like, you know what? I could just do my art and I don't need anybody else. I can just, kind of get into my zone and do that. So yeah, in high school, I like took like AP art class, things like that. And I just remember getting into a juried show and one of the judges was like, what do you want to do with your life? I'm like, well, I love art. I love psychology. I don't know. What do you think? And they're like, well, have you heard of art therapy? And I'm like, oh, no, what's that? And so they sent me this article of this little boy who had cancer and he was in the hospital. And he had an art therapist that would come in and help him build his confidence and help him with his emotions so that he had an outlet, right? And so they would draw out these little Pac-Man eating away his cancer cells. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. And so the article was about that. He went into remission. He was able to get through the whole cancer. And I was like, wow, there was someone there that was supporting him emotionally. How powerful is that? I would love to have that. I was like, I wish I had that, in high school because I needed it. So that's kind of like where I knew. I was like, okay, whatever I have to do, I'm going to do that. And so then I ended up going to college and getting my undergraduate in sculpture, which is crazy because I'm not even doing sculptures anymore. But
Hey, we evolve.
but then I got my master's in it in art therapy, and yeah, I felt like I've been on purpose ever since. Just going
Mm,
in that direction.
I love that. That's such a powerful story. Thank you for sharing that. And I can so relate to the moving around. When I was younger, I was always doodling or coloring or painting or making things. But when I moved to America when I was 12 and a half, art just became the way I communicated, the way I processed life, and a cure for boredom. Because when you're a kid and you move somewhere new, you don't have any friends. Books and art were the extent of my social interaction. So it is so healing. Even as a kid, you might not think oh, I'm doing something to like help me heal or process, but you naturally sort of lean into that activity. So it's interesting. And I'm grateful that science is doing research on this and helping us understand that this actually is like a real outlet and a real way to process things. So powerful.
Definitely. I mean, with just like the neuroscience that's coming out of just like what happens to your brain and how you could see the cortisol levels drop, and it's like we've always needed that information just to say that this is legit. Because I remember when I was wanting to become an art therapist, people would ask, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I'm an art therapist. They're like, what is that? They didn't know what it was. So this was like 20 years ago. And just letting people know how important it is and how it can support them, and having research around it is just it's so powerful.
It's so powerful. I'm so glad. And I actually, I shared this with you before, but I almost went to school for a therapy. I got into the Drexel program, but something, it just wasn't the right thing for me at that time. Who knows, maybe it's in my future, but I remember it was a very new field. And even during the interviews, they were telling me like there's so much research, but it's still not publicly sort of, well known. And it is kind of almost like a holistic practice, but I'm glad to see that this day and age there's so much more backup and what we always knew was true. Now we have the receipts and all of that. Now, Leah, I want to ask you for someone who may have stepped away. I have a lot of artists. They're not mine, but we have a lot of amazing people in our community, including artists who may have gone on to get their MFA. But life happens. We get burnt out. We get discouraged. We get into comparison or self doubt, and maybe we stepped away from our work, or maybe we were creative when we were younger and we stepped away, but now that call is loud to gently start the process again of rebuilding our creative practice. What would you say to someone who's looking to reconnect with that part of themselves?
Well, definitely make it a priority. And I know that's usually the last thing that they think. They're like, I just don't have time. That's the main thing that I hear from people. It's like, I just don't have time to make it a priority. I don't need time. But what happens, and I've experienced this for myself, is that when I've had these episodes of not creating, it's when it led me to burnout. And when you're in burnout mode, then you're anxious, you're depressed, you're just floundering. And that doesn't help anybody, it doesn't help yourself. So that's why it's like knowing what could happen if you don't practice your art should be the motivator to say, hey, this is important. This is what brings me joy. This is, what is going to help me. It's going to help my mental health. It's going to help me all around. So just making it a priority again. And so I've had to trick myself in many different ways. Even this table that about this behind me is like a trick for me because I'm working on this series of my Taste of Tarpon, and I just couldn't figure out like why can't I just sit down to do it? I know I want to do it. I have all these ideas and everything. And I was reading Atomic Habits, which is an amazing book, and it was telling me of, make it really easy and accessible. I'm like, that's what the issue was, is that I had to take away, put away my art supplies and then take them back out and clean up. And I was like, if I just have a table, I just keep everything out. That makes it so much easier. So it's kind of like thinking of like, what are you saying yourself that's stopping you? And then, just make some hacks of how you can make it really easy. So whether it's like keeping your art supplies out, whether it's blocking out a time in your agenda, like I literally have to use my agenda too to say, okay, it's paint time.
Yeah,
Because of,
absolutely.
I would imagine you probably do that too because you're really busy.
100%. And that's the thing. That's why it's funny because I think we both built our businesses around our creativity on purpose. And I was just talking to Bonnie Christine. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her. She's an amazing educator too, but she does like surface design and helping people with licensing. But she said like she built her business around her art so that it's almost like an excuse to work with others and that's why I run my challenges occasionally when I need them. And then I'm like, okay, well, I know other people do too, and it's true. And it's funny because a lot of times it's not always new artists that are like, how do I build a creative habit or studio practice? It's a lot of times overeducated, extremely experienced people who get in their head, who maybe got burnt a few times or had like super mile high expectations for their career or their work. And all that pressure really does demotivate us. I know for me it does as well. When I'm like, I'm gonna make a blue chip gallery collect, like that doesn't inspire our inner artist. That just makes us feel like there's a huge like obstacle in front of us. And to your point, I had to also trick myself. I have like a grab bag with a backpack with my sketchbook and watercolor palettes and like a little container that already has water in it. Like I don't even have to wash it. It's already there. So totally. Leah, do you have any like favorite exercises for someone who might be resisting? What I hear a lot from our community, from people who may have stepped away, is like, oh, I just feel so many negative emotions and fear, and like, oh my gosh, what if what I make is ugly? And what if I hate it? Like, all the things come up, even though, like, of course, we're gonna make bad art. That's part of the process, but how do you push through all that pressure and like negative emotions when they come up at the beginning when you're just getting back into it?
Yeah, definitely. I think community is really powerful. There's so many different communities. I mean, I had mentioned my Creative Soul Society membership, and I do experiences where people can dive back in. I know you have an amazing community with the Art Queens, where just being surrounded by other artists and having conversations about art is inspiring. So it is like being around other artists, I think, is helpful. A lot of times we tend to isolate ourselves. I mean, I live in Miami, and it's a huge art community, but sometimes I could feel very isolated here, and I have to, reach out to other art. Usually, it's online.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. So how important it is to just like not to be in isolation and kind of audit those thoughts. 'Cause I know what you were talking about with like putting that pressure on yourself about exhibiting. I've actually taken a break. I was trying to be in like every Miami Art Week, just like every year, just being like able to exhibit. That was such a big thing for me. And I was just like, wow, that's so much pressure that I put on myself because I feel like I have to have a new series and then when you get there, then everyone's like, okay, well, did you sell something? And it's just like, it just kind of goes into this other place. I was like, that's not where I want to come from right now. Like, this is not a place where I want to put this pressure on my art. Like, I want to have this loving relationship. I want to have fun with it. And when it's ready, when I make something that I want to share, I want it to come from that place of sharing the love.
Mm,
So I guess it's kind of going back, like, to answer your question, this like long about way too is kind of coming back to like what our intention is
mm,
with creating. I know a lot of times for me, well, I do a lot of writing in the morning, and a lot of times I'll ask myself, I go, okay, well, how do I want to feel today? And my intention is, yeah, it is to feel creative, but there's also like this sense of satisfaction that I showed up for myself,
yeah.
right? And then making something about my feelings, just kind of checking in with that too, of actually like doing a doodle or matching my emotions to certain line, shape, or color in my art journal. How powerful! Like 5 minutes a day is can be a really powerful practice of just checking in, and doing that can lead to that block, like breaking the block to get you into that creative flow. That's the hardest part, right? It's just kind of
Yes.
up
It's
recommitting.
it's like with anything. It's like going to the gym. You're like, oh, I don't want to go. It's gonna be so hard. It's gonna be painful and awkward. But then you get there and you do the weightlifting, you get on the treadmill, whatever, and it's fine. And next thing you know, you're done with the workout.
Yeah,
So it's the
right,
same.
you're like satisfied, like I did.
Exactly. And then you feel good. And that's what we have to focus on is that feeling of I showed up for myself. I showed up for my mental health, my creativity. And I'm so with you on the exhibiting. I had a little bit of burnout this year and I talked about it, but I took some time off and I told my galleries it was really hard for me as a people pleaser. I'm like, I'm not going to send you anything because I just need some space. And it felt really scary to do that, to be honest, because, I've been doing it for like over 10 years now. but nothing bad happened. I found, luckily I built my business that I have other income streams, so I don't put pressure on this art sales anymore. When I did when I was younger, that was the only thing I ever wanted. But now I'm like, no, like space is so much more valuable to me. And, and now I think just being able to create my body of work and then when I'm ready to show it is such a better relationship for me than like constantly checking boxes or, like fulfilling some arbitrary deadline. I think like make the work that you want to make and trust there's a place for it if you want to. You don't even have to finish anything. You can just do it as an act of self-care. But yeah, I'm so with you. I think it's important to like step back and pause and be like, what am I doing this for? And for some people, it's their livelihood. So I understand like you obviously have to meet your deadlines, but I'm glad that I didn't put that much pressure on that side of things because the freedom is really nice.
I agree.
Oh, Leah, I know you have a really exciting event coming up, and I am very just grateful for the spaces that you build in the community. What you're doing is so important. Can you tell us about the upcoming retreat that you're hosting?
Yes, it's called Creative Soul Retreat, and I do this online. I do them every like about 4 months, so it gives people an opportunity to try out what is art for self-care, right? What is art for self-discovery? So it's, as like an established artist, it's kind of taking a break from the series and trying something new. So we work in art journaling, and there's different prompts. It's like connecting with the body, seeing where emotions are held in the body. It's connecting with like your animal spirits and seeing like what like where that power lies and what you're carrying with you, right? And also, another favorite thing that I like to do that we're going to be doing in this particular retreat in August 24th is a focused life wheel. I'm not sure if you've ever done one before,
Hmm.
but I really love it because it looks at every area of your life because everything is a relationship, right? A relationship with our art, but a relationship with every area of your life. So we're looking at our home, our money, our self, travel, in every area, and then being able to say, hey, what do I want? What are my goals in this particular area? And being honest with yourself, like, am I giving it love and attention? Am I avoiding it? Am I blocking it? Rating it, and then using your art as your superpower. That's how I like to say it. And stepping into, okay, if I'm going to build this area of my life, let me give it some love. And that's where I say it's like art for self-discovery, is because you can use your art journal practice to give it love and attention. Like if you wanted to travel, you could, make art about that space. If you want like a new home, making it cozy or redesigning it in some way, you could do that, with, you could do it in Canva, but you could also do it in your art journaling. So just giving it love and attention, and whatever you give love and attention, it's gonna grow.
Mm.
So yeah, it's just using your art in a different way. And I invite people, if your audience would like to try it out. It's a $7 commitment. It's not too much, but a little bit of if you put a little money in the game, then you're going to show up to the game. And I love, like, it lights me up. I love doing it. We usually have a really good crowd of people that show up, people from my community show up. And it's so fun to see like how one prompt, how everyone interprets it differently. So
Mm.
everyone's like style is different. It ends up being different. And just hearing people's stories that go along with it, like where they're holding their stress in their body, or what energy is showing up and what that looks like. So yeah.
That's so beautiful. And knowing you and your amazing books that you've written with so many amazing tools and exercises that you share, I know it's going to be so transformative. And yeah, it really blew my mind. Now, when I say it, it sounds really obvious. But when I first learned that emotions are in the body, I was like, that makes a lot of sense. But also, how comes we're not taught this? It's like we're just not taught that we can move them through and help ourselves by identifying where things are happening. So, yeah,
It's
I
the
can't wait.
awareness, right? It's like we have to be like aware of it. Yeah. And then taught, like, that's my biggest mission. Like in this life, I feel that I would love art therapy to be in every public school. Like to be able to have that would be so cool.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. I so am with you because that would be so helpful with, for example, I think art class is important. I was spending some time with a 13-year-old art student just like as a give back thing, and she was telling me they don't have art class in her middle school, and I was shocked, and I was like, that's why her parents just asked me if I could just paint with her once a week, and I was grateful to be able to do that, but I was disturbed and appalled that that was happening. But art class aside, I think art class is one thing because it's still graded. You still have to do something. Just having space for kids, even if it's like you can choose to go there during study hall or pace or whatever, and just make something, let the feelings out, make some clay. Clay is so therapeutic, especially if like for teen boys, like they have so much energy and angst. Like just make a mess, like hold something physical. Everything's online. I'm so with you, and if there's anything I can do to support this mission, let's make it happen because I feel like it would make for like a healthier society.
Yeah, just putting it out there, just talking about it and figuring out how it'll all fall into place some way or another. But yeah,
Yeah,
I know that our class was like my savior in school. So
same.
just being able to have that opportunity for other people, it does make me sad that, she doesn't have art class.
Yeah, and she'll be okay. But yeah, and shout out to my art high school art teacher, Mrs. Wendy Hall. She saved my life because well, one, she kept the art room open. So I skipped lunch a lot of times. I would bring my food to the art room and I just worked. I was there as much as I could, and I think that actually saved my life. Like it made me who I am today to be able to just take those few hours a day to be in the art room. Such a weird, like thinking back to high school, I'm like, what a strange place. Yes, absolutely. Leah, when is this retreat and how can people sign up and tell us everything?
Yeah, so it's going to be August 24th to the 27th. It's Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday evening. So it's at 8 p.m. Eastern, which would be 5 p.m. Pacific, and it's an hour-long session. I like to contain it just to an hour, and if you sign up at leahguzmanstudio.com, and it has a Creative Soul is the website, but I'll give you the link to that. So if someone's interested, they want to try it out. Yeah, it's 3 days, and just being in community is a lot of fun. I always give away prizes and all kinds of good stuff, and we get to share as well, share our artwork. So yeah, you can just meet other creative souls.
That's so exciting. Thank you for doing this. And where else can our listeners find you? What else do you have going on? How can we support you and follow along with what you're doing?
Oh, thanks. Yeah. So on Instagram, I'm Art Therapy Online. We have in the membership group, we do have a Facebook community, but it's open to anybody, even if you're not a member. It's called Creative Soul Online Retreat. So if you want to see some of the artwork that has been created or what we create in the community, you're welcome to check that out. And yeah, I'm just personally just working on my own series. It's a Taste of Tarpon. It's where I grew up, and I'm working on my own artwork. And yeah, I always have lots of different projects happening. Nothing that I could share too much, but I'm just focusing on the retreat right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so excited to see your own work. And of course, the retreat is going to be amazing. Leah, thank you so much for your time and for inspiring us. And everyone, go ahead and check out the show notes to sign up. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Kat. It was so lovely to see you.